open for blockchain, equip you with the skills. You can go to the top, man. Presented by Blue Collar Crypto. It's easy to learn. You can master the cosmos and make an upturn. Let's go. 5 stars for the show. Yes, you already know.
Hey guys and girls, this is Phillip from Blue Collar Crypto again, and I'm here with Kailam from Akash Alpha, which is one of the guys that if you want to keep in touch with the cash, you want to know what's going on, he's the person to be. Follow him on his X handle. So let me allow him to introduce himself.
Hi, Kailam and Akash Chat. I mean, I don't know what what else. That's a good enough explanation to me. Community member for Akash, not affiliated, not on a core team, just to be extremely clear. But as we talk through these things, I hope to introduce people to Akash and make it easier to understand. And that's really the purpose.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about you and like your backstory. Like, how did you get into crypto? A little bit about you.
How did I get into crypto? Okay. I think it was 2020, so I'm not like real OG, like 2017 OG, you know. I came in, I guess, the next wave after. How did I get into it? I think it was I was really working hard during the COVID years, you know, and so I was not really looking into all these like crypto, for example, you know. But then I guess once I was done, you know, breaking my back with the physical job, I got a chance to kind of take a look. My friend introduced me, and then I got really hooked into it. I learned more and more. I think for me, it was more about really learning the technicals of it, like how it worked, you know, because before that, it was just like, oh, Bitcoin, like that's like fake money, right? Like, like what is that? Like, why would I trade my money for something that doesn't exist, right? It's not real. So it took some time to really kind of learn that, you know. And then so I was lucky to have a friend to help me through that, and that friend himself was a big proponent of Akash, and it was so got me into it early. And back then it was like 49% APY back in the day. So I you know, this was just when mainnet launched, you know. So yeah, the APY was really good, and at that time I didn't really know what Akash was about. Honestly, it was just the APY that really got me into it, and I think that's a very normie view. And today, these days, when I talk to my friends about it, they're always like, "Oh, you get, you know, how much percentage in the staking?" You know, so it's really interesting, you know, that like these days it's just, you know, I don't really push that as much anymore, you know, because you understand a little bit, you know, like the risks and things like that, you know. But yeah, that's basically how I got into it and how I learned about Akash. And then the more I learned, the more I really liked about the values that they have, you know. They're open source, and that they are permissionless, and they have all these ideals that they enshrine, you know, to make sure that everybody has like fair access to compute. Which, if we are to believe in this AI world, that compute is going to be the future currency, that, you know, it would be important that everybody has access to intelligence, right, to be able to run their intelligence.
Okay, so let's say that I am a newbie and I know nothing about Akash. This is the first time I'm hearing it. I don't know anything about Akash. Summarize Akash, what it means to you, what its goals are, what the problem is trying to solve.
Yeah, so what is Akash? So there's a traditional answer. You know, Akash Network is the underlying blockchain that supports the Akash Cloud Marketplace. So the product that is actually important, the utilization, is that it allows anybody to basically bring their idle compute, whether that is in a form of idle storage or idle you know, RAM or you know, CPU, but more importantly, and you know, to this day and age, is the GPU. So if you have idle GPUs, you can permissionlessly just put them up on the network. So for example, if you are a AI researcher and you have these really expensive GPUs that you paid a lot for, and you know, you're only using it for X amount of time because you're in between training sets or you're doing some work, you know, and so you're not utilizing it the same way, you can go ahead and put your GPU up and kind of put that out to rent to the market, and basically have that rent out and recoup some of that cost back. So that's really the key of it. And then on the flip side, anybody can go out and basically rent that compute or GPU. So as I was saying earlier about access to intelligence, so you want to have access to that compute so that your AI might work. So that's why it's important. And so that's really like the larger like 5,000 level problem that it solves, is that the permissionless part is like these ideals, these big values, these big thoughts ultimately became more important as I learned more and more about Akash, as opposed to when I first learned about it, it just being a GPU, CPU compute marketplace, so I hope that gives you like a full range of explanation there.
Yeah. So do you know if anybody can put any amount of GPUs, or do you have to have like a certain processor to loan out your GPUs?
Mm-hmm. So the interesting part is that it's permissionless, like I said, and this is permissionless on both sides. So as a customer, anybody can go rent out the resource, and as a provider, anybody can put their resource up. So there's nobody that says that you have to have a certain GPU or you have to have a certain like a brand of anything. It's just that if you have something that's in demand, then the market will rent it out. And if you have something that's not in demand, you are free to list it. But if nobody rents it out, then that's just, you don't make anything from that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So all about
Yeah.
supply and demand. If you have
Yep,
something
exactly.
yeah, exactly. So how do you, now I know Akash is traded on Coinbase. You can get it on Osmosis. You can get it on a lot of the DEXs in the Cosmos
Mm.
ecosystem. When it comes to cash and staking, what does it mean to be a staker? How does it work? What are you accomplishing by staking your Akash tokens to the network?
Right. So Akash is a L1 blockchain, and it's a proof of stake network, a Cosmos network, Cosmos IBC blockchain. So its own sovereign network. So in order for it to run, people have to stake their coins to validators that then participate in governance. And there is the open governance system where anyone can participate. But the whole idea is that it just basically makes the blockchain run. And so that's really the value of staking, is the economic security of the blockchain, so to make sure that you can't attack it or change the blocks, right? And so in return for staking, you get a staking reward. That's your reward for putting your capital into the network. And so that changes from time to time depending on a few things, mainly proposals, as well as it's got its own little algorithm there to incentivize staking if less people stake, and so on and so forth. I cover a lot of this in articles that I've written, so you can find that in my X profile.
Okay.
So definitely check that out for more in depth. It's really a lot of details, so I don't want to get too technical for the audience
absolutely.
here. But generally, that's the purpose of it. It's just governance and to basically support the blockchain, which ultimately is Akash Network. Akash Network, the cloud marketplace, can't run without the underlying blockchain, because that's the orchestration layer that sends all the detailed releases out to the providers. And so really at its core, staking is like, those are the people who makes the blockchain go around, so to speak.
So do you run a validator node yourself?
No. So to run a validator, you pretty much have to have very like steady internet and have a lot of like requirements in terms of having like a whole home lab and things like that, right? You don't really want it to run on like my laptop, right? So no, I do not personally run a validator, but I do know a lot of validators. They really support the network in terms of not only participating in governance, but also like some of them develop for Akash. So I've got to cover them in my work, and so I've got to know a couple of them.
Nice. Is there maybe a few of them that you would recommend in particular? Because I find myself as a user, I log on to Kepler and I'm searching down a validator list to decide who to delegate my funds to. And I don't know anyone or what they believe in, or if they're a good actor or a bad actor. The only thing I know is their name and maybe a link to their website. So maybe you could share some insight on maybe who you would delegate to, or maybe who you do delegate to.
Right. So, generally, again, I'm going to refer a lot of users to the staking guide because it will go into more details about how you should choose your validators. Generally speaking, I would say you want to choose lower level delegators. So you want validators that have less people delegating to them. simply because you want to spread the stake around, right? You don't want to have like everything on one on one validator, and they have like a lot of voting power, so to speak, and they can like solo vote things in, right? So you do want to spread that around. In terms of like whether or not you can trust the validators, you don't know them, right? How they feel. A lot of it is just depending on how deep you want to go. The easiest way is just to go onto MintScan and look on the Akash validators list, and you'll see they'll have the uptimes. They'll show you who votes, who doesn't vote. So obviously, you can just go by that metric. Say, oh, this validator votes a lot, and then they're always there, and then their uptime, they're always up, because obviously if they're not up, then they're not earning rewards and not making blocks, right?
Yeah, right.
So really, like those are the metrics that are easy for most people generally to follow, and then you can go one step deeper and then research who your validators are, right? Like for example, if you ask who do I'm not going to tell you who I validate to, because generally I think that people should do the research on that, but I generally like to send my delegations to contributor validators, and so these are the people that are not only validating for Akash, but they're building it. I guess I will name some people, because how do I not give examples? So one, for example, would be ZJ from Node Dump Node. So ZJ, for example, is giving a lot of credit for a lot of the AI implementations that Akash does. Like Akash Chat is powered and developed by him, and Akash Gen, the image generator, that's free to use. Akash Chat free to use. Akash Chat API free to use. So all of those were spearheaded by him in terms of maybe not. I don't want to say spearhead. I don't know the behind the scenes, right? Again, don't work there. But the idea is that I know that he did a lot of the legwork to make that happen, and he still manages that today, right? And so anytime there's like a new model, Akash is always like, within like a few hours, they've got the newest open source model up on Akash Chat. And there's one guy that's responsible for that, Nice. So like that's what I mean by contributor, right?
Yeah.
And then and then other contributors might be the ones that like might show up, on a lot of like away team, away team trips. Like for example, the conferences. Akash is in a lot of conferences around the world, and so there are a lot of team members. Sorry, not team members, community members. Like how I said that I'm a community member, but I don't work for the team. Likewise, there are other people that are community members that don't work for the team, and they show up to those events physically, and they and they talk to people and things like that. And so there's many different ways of contributing, as opposed to just like there are some validators like like let's say an exchange, for example, and they don't do any of that, right? So but then exchanges will have like huge amount of control, right? Because they themselves own a lot of like Akash to begin with. So whenever they vote, they'll have a lot of power. So I mean that's generally the general rule is just more to the smaller validators.
So, if you don't mind, can you share your screen and maybe walk us through some of the Akash, like the Akash GPT and the image generator? Can you show users how to use that?
Yeah, I mean, like it's.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. So this is Akash Chat. It's basically, let me see if I can take it to dark mode so it's not too bright. So the interesting thing about this is that you can go ahead and choose from a whole list of open source models. So depending on whichever one you need, some will be like the fastest, some will have like it actually says right here, there it goes, fastest, most intelligent, and so you can choose depending on your need. And so DeepSeek is the latest and greatest, and so you can ask it questions. And so over here I have a lot of two conversations basically. So I personally use Venice AI, which is you saw that before, so I have a lot more conversations there. But the idea is that Venice AI also runs on the same runs on Akash basically. But Akash Chat is like the free version for everybody, and the whole point of Akash Chat is just to show people that you can do this with Akash. Just like how I said I use Venice AI. Venice AI is a client that uses the same technology that Akash is showcasing here, by saying, hey, look, we can host any open source model you throw at us, and we can do it within hours of it being released, right? Like that's how easy it is to deploy. And so compare this to other GPU depends, that basically can't do this, right? Like, and that's the whole point, right? That's the showcase of what Akash Chat is. So while Akash Chat is great, it shows, like gives access to everybody, private access to everybody, to a open source model that anyone can use. What it really does is show off that it can do what others can't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so this is just for Akash Chat, for all open LLM models, and then the rest is just as your typical Chat GPT, like style format. So I'm not gonna go over that. That kind of makes sense.
Right.
I hope everyone takes a look at it and explores. And then Akash Gen is basically, I like dark mode. So Akash Gen is the same thing, and so same thing, but for visuals, right? So now we're looking at this one. I believe is running a Stable Diffusion XL 3.5. You know what I mean? But I believe you can. I don't think it's live yet, but I think ZJ is working on making it so that you can actually choose different generation models, just like you can choose different LLMs before with Akash Chat. But this one is the one for, I think right now it's just for Stable Diffusion XL 3.5, whatnot, And so this is again free to use for people to use. So we definitely try to get a lot of people to use it because here's a free image generator. And this is running entirely on Akash GPUs, right? And then once again, this is just a proof of showing that Akash can deploy any production AI models that you throw at it. And it's just a proof of concept to show people that this can be done. And then here's Venice AI. And this entire thing runs on Akash. And what's beautiful about it is that it basically gives a easy to use, UX, the user experience forward kind of like interface for everyone to interact with, right? And so if you check out over here, you can check like the different models and whatnot. So some of these are behind the Pro account, and so for Pro account, the prices may vary. Go check it out. But the idea is that you can actually use a few of these for free, right? And so interesting enough, here you can also do image models, and so you can see you can choose different types of image models and whatnot. So hey, a little bit of alpha between you and me, right? All of these models are available on on Akash Chat. So theoretically, we were just talking about this, right? So that's the idea, right? Like, so you are getting what would be a paid service, but instead, you can use Akash for it. Now, why would anyone use Venice? So just a shout out to Venice. Besides like beautiful like layouts and things like that, they're also like doing like personas and agents and things like that. So there's a lot more like polish and pizzazz built into Venice than what you'll get using Akash Chat, right? So once again, Akash Chat, Akash Gen, these are just proof of concepts to show that Akash can. And so I would love to take a detour here and talk about what that. Oh, the last thing is going to be Akash Chat API, and this one is a I think it's called Chat API. Yes, this one is a banger for sure. And so, sorry, there's no dark mode for this one, but yeah. So for this one, it basically so the first two that I showed you is all about like us, right? Like consumers, people who are not builders. So this one's for the builders, and so this basically gives people a open AI style API where they can connect their apps to. And then they can basically power inference for their apps, all the AI features using the open source LLMs instead of, let's say, Google Claude or OpenAI, right? And so if you check out the guide here, it has all of these models here that they can hook up to. And so this is actually being used for quite a lot of things, from processing data to cleaning data. That's what Sentinel uses this program for. And this can also be used by agents, right, that will call upon these models for their brain processing power, thinking. And so there's actually quite a lot of use for that. And I think Akash, the Akash main account did say something about like the growth that it's had. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but as you can imagine, a free API would probably get quite a lot of hits,
yeah.
And so this is like quite the amazing part, right? And what you want to see here is you want to see that people get started using it. They're like, oh, really? Oh, I get to upgrade? Because as I was saying, like whenever a new model comes out, they just put it up there, right? And so the list keeps growing. So anytime there's a new state of the art model, it gets updated automatically. And so you're always getting the best of what's out there in the open source world using this API. And so the best part is permissionless. Like we can just click the get started button and look at that. Email is optional, description is optional, your name, you can just put whatever name, right? And then you can generate your API key and boom, and like, I wonder if you can just, boom. so that's how hopefully that's how fast it takes, right? Maybe it will say like I can't have a semicolon as a name, maybe, I don't know, but the idea is that they don't really require much. As I'm saying that, I think I think I broke it. So let's just say like here, like that's a name, and I don't put anything else. And because I already done this once already, and it worked just fine. So I don't know. Maybe it's like some kind of screen sharing thing. So
Maybe.
who knows? But the idea is that they really don't ask much for that. And so so yeah, that's the last piece of it is a Akash Chat API. Those are like the kind of like the main things around how people can interact with it. Like I'm sorry now, it's been so long. We were talking about your original point, right? So you asked me to show you this, and I did that. I think I answered your question at that point, right?
Yes, sir. What is this that we're looking at here? This is an Akash console?
Oh yeah, so this is so the thing is that everybody knows Akash for its GPUs right now, because that's like the hottest things, AI and everything AI. But before AI was like the biggest thing, what Akash really is a cloud network basically. So you can actually deploy multiple things. So right now Akash is being compared to a lot of GPU DPINs, but Akash is way bigger than that. So you can deploy so many things with Akash. So just so you know, anybody can just go to console.akash.network and you can deploy anything right away. Like literally, I can deploy something within 2 minutes. I don't even have to log in or anything because everything is permissionless. And that's what I mean is that, if I had a wallet, connecting the wallet would probably be helpful. But even then, I don't even need to connect the wallet. I could deploy something. So check this out. So I hit the start trial button. That automatically gives me some, a small amount of AKT cash. And then, and this isn't like infinite, but, you normally you get it. So there's my $10 credit. And then I hit this deploy button. But before that, I'll show off the deployment templates, right? And so there are so many things that you can deploy on Akash right now. These are all just templates. You can literally deploy anything you put your mind to. It's just that these are the ones that people already did, so they put it up so anyone can follow their footsteps. But I believe one time there was this new game called like Power World that came out. It was really popular for the moment. And obviously no one's gonna have a Power World game launcher on Akash from day one because the game's just released. But all it does is it just takes. I think it's on there now. But yeah, regardless, the whole point is that somebody does it and they put it up, so you can do things like games here. So you can deploy like a Minecraft instance, or you can do like Super Mario, whatnot. You can do like websites. So I would use Akash for like WordPress, for example. You can deploy a WordPress, pretty much right away. And so and so let's just deploy something. I'll just deploy a game because $10 is not a lot to work with. So it's just the idea is to show you how it works. The fact that anyone can just deploy something, and I think that's the main idea of it. So here I'm just gonna click the deploy button, and then right here this is the pre-written script that for the template, right? And I'll confirm the resources that I want. And now it's searching the provider. So this is where the blockchain works, right? Like we're now, the blockchain itself is working, querying, the providers are giving bids. So now I'm waiting for them to do a reverse bidding. So I gave them my job, it's out there, and now all the providers on the network are now bidding for the privilege of hosting my workload, right? And so this usually takes a minute or so, and then you'll have a bid here for $2 a month, and then if you wait longer, you'll get more and more bids, depending on who's available to do this workload, right? And this is depending on the settings. So as the free trial goes, there's only a certain amount, and there's a little behind the scenes, but as the free trials go, they only go to certain providers. Does that make sense? For the free trial. But if I connected my wallet, I would get way more choices than this one that I'm getting right now, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about here is that you'll see that this one's audited, because this one's probably run by Overclock Labs themselves, which is providing the free compute for people to try out, right? So you'll see that it's audited, so you can kind of, yep, here it is. See, it says Overclock is running this. That makes sense. So it gives you a bunch of the things that you can do with it. So again, this is just the free trial, is just so that people can kind of get a taste of how it is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and accept this bid now, to show how quick it is. So, and I actually have a video on my profile, that runs through this whole thing. With explanations, but the beauty of it is just that it's going to be live, and then we can play our. I think I chose Mario. I forget, but the idea is that we're already live, and so it's now deploying onto the Overclock server, and soon. Wait, unless it did not. Let's see. I think it already finished, so I think I can now go to deployment. And that's my deployment over here. And let's see. So that's where it's hosted. They recently did an upgrade, so I actually, usually there's a link for me to click, and so live, of course, I'm like, where's the link? I think here it is. Okay, so found it. Tetris. Okay, so that's the one I chose basically. Oh, you don't see this. Oh no. Okay, let me go back. I gotta paste it. So this was the address. So there you go. So this is the game that we just deployed, and we're able to do that, basically at will, without any signups. I don't have to sign up for anything, right? And so, in comparison to other places where you just don't get access to the GPUs right away. So the whole point of that trial here, because like I said, you unlock way more if you put your wallet in instead of using this free trial that they have going on here. But the idea is that and then there's no lock-in. Like I can easily just go ahead and delete this right away. I can just close my instance, right? And then that's it. And then it's gone, And so that's how much control I have over your deployments, on Akash basically. So for everyday users like you and me, we're not really gonna, you can deploy so many things. Like you can deploy AI, entire Llama 3.1, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? From literally we can go ahead and deploy Llama 3.1 right now and rent out 8 GPUs. I'm not gonna be able to afford it with $10, but you get what I'm trying to say. So there's something for everybody is an understatement, right? But like I said, I would personally use this for blogging, to do WordPress, to do maybe a Ghost installation, and then people do other things because it's generalized compute, so you can run so many things on it. You can run Blender on here. I think there's
So basically, I can sit there and because I just renewed my hosting provider with Hollister, so
sure.
I could basically, when my yearly subscription runs out from my website, I can host it on Akash.
Yeah,
just that.
Exactly. So here are the caveats, right? Because there are going to be different caveats, right? So yes, that is the short answer is yes. You can literally just host your WordPress site just like that. Here are the caveats. Don't go for the cheapest name on the list. You know what I mean? You want to go for a provider. You don't want to host your website on somebody's laptop. You know what I mean? You want to host your website on a data center somewhere, and that data center is going to charge you more than what the laptop is going to charge you. You know what I mean? And so there are little caveats like that. And that's the thing, this is very unpolished, And when I say unpolished, I don't mean Akash is unpolished, because Akash, in my opinion, is super polished. So what I mean by unpolished is that there are, this is just the raw power. Imagine Akash is giving you access to the raw compute. And so because of that, it's a little jagged around the edges, but there can be like purpose-built user experiences that are built upon that to make it a lot easier to, let's say, deploy something more more stably, right? So a good example is I'll go to Quasarch. Let me see. Quasarch for Akash. I think it's going to be, I'm going to have to get that name right. Quasarch. Here it is. So Quasarch, and they also run a cloud, I believe. I'm trying to get there. Here, let me see. So here we have. So here, Quasarch is a cloud platform that is built on Akash, right? So it's literally entirely run on Akash resources, right? So let me copy and paste that because I only share one screen. Here it is. So here you can see that it is a different type of website, right, than the one that I was showing you about the do-it-yourself, right? So you have Akash's console where you can deploy it yourself, and it's all self-service, and it's the cheapest you'll get it, right? But if you pay a little bit more, you'll get a little bit more red carpet service. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here is one night. Now this one is not permissionless. You're gonna have to sign up with your email and whatnot, but then because you're signing up with your email, you can now pay with your credit card. So there's some pros and cons, And so in the case of Akash, it's not the same, right? Akash now takes credit cards, but even then, that's just through overclock, right? So the idea is that, you can have more services built on top of it that might be the exact same services as what you would get at Akash itself, but now more polished. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's infinitely composable, and that's the beauty about Akash, is that the power is just there, and it's up to you to wield it, right? Not you like me. I don't know. I can't code. I can't, but hopefully as AI gets easier and easier, maybe one day I can easily, whip something up and utilize the compute, But if you're a programmer, and let's be real, that's the core. Clients are the programmers, are the builders, right? Like who's using this GPU compute right now? Like who's building the AI agents that are so popular right now, right? It's not you and me, it's developers, right? And so who are these people? Where are they going to go look for compute, right? Where are they going to go look for a place where you need permission? You need to wait for permission, and whatnot. Are they going to go to a place where it's permissionless? Does that make sense? Because permissionless means that Akash can't kick you off. Like nobody like. If Greg O'Siri doesn't like you or whatnot, like he can't do anything about you using his network. You know what I mean? Like he can't IP ban you or whatnot. But so I mean, if these things are important for agents, for these developers, then they're going to choose accordingly where to deploy. And and that's why, in my opinion, that's why Akash has like 80% utilization rates. You know what I mean? Because people are catching on, and they want to deploy on those GPUs. So anyway. Round and round we go, but I'm gonna try to do these regular spaces and talk about different things about Akash, because it's the again, if you're a fan of Akash but you're not super technical, right? There's so much depth to explain why Akash is like the one versus any other like DPIN out there. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to explain. Like as a beginner who got into Akash early, I was unable to understand, like I was like open source, whatever, permissionlessness, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so what if you need someone to approve you to whatever, right? I'm trying to sell GPUs, you're trying to buy GPUs, eventually you're going to get approved. What's the problem, right? And so like that's like generally like the first way of thinking, but then over time you kind of understand, wow, like permissionlessness is the moat. Like that's the deciding factor between a sea of all copycats of DPINs, like what sets Akash up like beyond anybody else. It's the fact that it is the only permissionless one on both sides. Everywhere else, you have to sign up. You have to, report to a centralized authority, even though it's decentralized, right? But somebody is the one that's behind there, approving, unapproving. Oh, you can join my network and bring your GPU. You cannot join my network and bring the GPU on my network. Oh yeah, you can purchase, this much, and you can't purchase that much. So how different are we from the traditional cloud AWSs in the world? You know what I mean? Like where they're charging a higher fee for GPUs because it's in high demand. You know what I mean? Like what's the difference, right? So then then the question is, does that even matter? You know what I mean? Maybe price go up is all that matters, or whatnot. But the interesting thing is that when you dive deeper into it, you then realize that, because it's permissionless, right? Like that's how decentralized AI is going to flourish, right? Like if decentralized AI doesn't work if somebody is like, oh yeah, you can't join a network, so, and there's so many, like I can explain that in like totally like more like in detail, but it's hard to do that, in
Yeah.
what we hope is like a 30-minute podcast, right? And
Right.
so like, yeah, so that's really what like the spaces that I want to do is going to be about, it's just to talk about like specifically like permissionlessness, like why it matters. And there's so much to unpack there, and I think that that's why, if you ask me why, sometimes Akash kind of feels like people like kind of pass it over, I think it's because these things takes a little bit more understanding to it, and really that's the mission of Akash Alpha, what I want to try to do, which is to bring that forward and make that easier to understand, and so that people can, do their research accordingly, so yeah. Don't even get me started, when it comes to those things, about like, verifiable on-chain revenues and whatnot, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to be like, oh, who cares if the revenue isn't on-chain, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you don't think about these things in the first, you just see, oh wow, big number, like FTX, big number, and then, we all know what happens to that big number and what that means. Like, it means a whole lot of nothing. And so, and so with the DePIN, it's the same thing. These days, it's just all about the big numbers, like, look how much revenue this place brought or that place brought, but none of them can prove it. None of their operations are on chain, and so so they can say whatever they want, right? So, but with Akash, the numbers are verifiable. What you see is what you get, and you can do it yourself. Like there's like anybody can take a look at it, so go ahead. So very different. So and again, these things don't really get talked about as much when people compare. And so so many topics. Actually look at what Akash is doing. Like they're breaking ground on a lot of like new things, and they're supporting it all. Like decentralized AI wouldn't be possible without permissionless Akash. And that's the beauty of it. And the best part is that we all own it. It's not like it's Overclock Labs network. Akash network is not owned by anybody in that way. So it's the people's network, and everyone has a say. It's open. You can go in there and like suggest your thing. And so. Anyway, I can talk on and on about it, so I'm gonna stop right here. I'll let you have any other questions, But I hope it made you a bigger Akash fan.
So you opened my eyes to a lot. I will have all these links in the show notes if you'll grace me with them.
Of course,
I will post them in the show notes. I do want to thank you 100 times for having you on.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love to talk about Akash.